Yep, I'm here.
Sweet, buddy. How's it going? I appreciate you joining. I think it's a little late on your end, so appreciate you taking the time and joining the space today. Also, everybody, while we're waiting to get started, if you don't mind leaving some comments, giving us a retweet, let's get your friends in here because we are diving into SynFuture's new V3, which is super exciting. I was looking a lot into it, and it's great. So, you guys, let's get your friends in here, get everybody informed of what's going on with SynFutures. And I guess with that being said, I'm ready to go, Mark, if you are.
Yep, just having a little bit of connectivity issues with my headphones, but I think I should be okay.
Sweet. Well, I guess then a good way to start is tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark. When did you start at SynFutures, and how's your journey going so far?
Sure. Yeah. So just a little on myself. So I'm Mark. I'm a partner and CMO at SynFutures, which means I oversee all kind of marketing, branding, um, and even user acquisition efforts. I started in the crypto space in 2018, around 2017, 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago. And I got into the space because I was doing some work in the Web2 space, working with a lot of emerging technology companies. And I kind of stumbled upon, blockchain and digital assets uh, right after the ICO boom. And then I joined the SynFutures team in 2021. I met the founders, and they had really like a great background for DeFi because they come from a mix of TradFi. They were, derivatives traders at major banks like Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and Nomura. But they also had a lot of experience in the blockchain sector, working on, layer one, working on the biggest crypto neobank, one of the biggest crypto neobanks. And so I felt like they had this really vast kind of knowledge base and experience and I was really excited about what they were building with SynFutures.
Sweet, man. Yeah, it's always nice joining a team that's really well experienced and kind of knows what they're doing. And I mean, it's great to have you on as well. I think you're quite a great guy when it comes to the CMO and being a partner and stuff. So, really excited to have you on and talking about Sin Futures. So, my first question today is, first I want to just say congrats on the success at Sin Futures. You guys are absolutely killing it right now. Looking at your guys' dashboard, you guys are averaging extremely high volume, doing high amounts of trades and gaining over about 1K new users a week, even in the bear market, which was amazing. So, I understand that your V3 is set to roll out soon, right? You guys are still in the test net. How long has this been in the works, and what is the new features that has been developed?
Yeah, sure. So maybe we could take a step back and I'll just give a little bit of the history of SynFutures as a product. So 2021, at the end of 2021, we launched our V1 and we launched it with kind of one goal in mind. We wanted to be this permissionless derivatives market for DeFi, right? What we mean by permissionless is we wanted anyone to be able to come to our platform and list and trade any assets that they see fit, right? So it's kind of like taking the Uniswap V3 model where anyone can be a liquidity provider and launch a token for trading. We wanted to bring that to futures and perps. V1 though was our really like our MVP, minimal viable product, and because of that, there were limited feature sets. The UI and UX was still needed a bit of work. Um, we To give an example, so for our V1, we only launch with futures markets. Futures markets, unlike perps, are dated, and they're popular in traditional finance. But what we realize is in the crypto markets, perpetual swaps are much more have much more adoption. And so with V2, we decided to add perps to the platform as well as do a major overhaul on UI UX. that said, V1, we were deployed on multiple networks. We were deployed on Polygon, Arbitrum, BNB chain. Um, Although very early on, we started gaining a ton of traction on Polygon, and we eventually became one of the biggest derivatives dexes on Polygon. We've since our V1 has since done about 18 billion in cumulative trading volume. And early this year, we decided to phase out V1 in favor of V2. But V2, I think it went live maybe around April, sometime the Q1 this year, Q1 early or early Q2 this year. And we've done about 4 billion in trading volume in this market, which is, it's a slower market. I think things are picking up now. But, we've managed to kind of continue to attract users, continue to drive trading volume with the help of some of our new kind of features like the perps offering and the improved UI UX. The thing though with V2 is we never put that much kind of emphasis on promoting V2. And the reason was right as we were getting ready to phase out V1, it turned out a lot of our development had been completed earlier than planned for our V3. So V2 we see really as a transitionary product that brings us from V1 to V3. Um, and we're really excited about V3 because it's a completely different model than we've had in the past. And we think this is what the DeFi market needs to drive more derivatives volume. You mentioned that we're in testnet right now, which is correct. We're on the Ethereum testnet right now, but I think within the coming weeks, like in the next 2, 3 weeks, we're going to be deploying on mainnet on multiple networks. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And then I can go into the details of the differences of V3 a little later in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's quite the journey. It's super exciting for you guys too. Must be to get that V3 rolling super quick and kind of having the V2 as a transitionary period. Now, I think one of your new features here is this Oyster AMM. Correct about that?
Yeah, so that's the name that we gave our new AMM model, which is so our old AMM model we called the SAMM, synthetic AMM, and we basically took the Uniswap. We looked at the Uniswap V2 AMM for inspiration, and we adapted it for derivatives. But there were a lot of inherent challenges with building a derivatives market using an AMM alone. So the one example is an AMM is typically passive liquidity, it offers passive liquidity provisions. And because of that, it kind of limits who would get involved on the liquidity provider side. One of the things that AMMs have done really well is it's democratized access to that side of the market for retail participants, right? So in TradFi, there was no way for retail users to participate on the other side, the maker side of the market, right? Um, but with AMMs, it introduced this new aspect where anyone can become a liquidity provider just, by with a couple clicks. The challenge with that, though, is it's not really robust enough for, I would say, like the institutional or professional liquidity providers because they need something that they need strategies that they can actively manage on the LP side. And so, it's a big challenge for AMM based derivatives dexes to attract enough liquidity to their pools because there are a limited number of participants who are willing to participate in these markets. The other problem with just AMMs in general is it's wildly inefficient from a capital efficiency perspective, right? So we looked at that model and said, okay, how do we combine the best of what's being done on the order book side and the best of what's being done on the AMM side and combine it into a single on-chain product? And I think that's one of the key differences for us. It's, there are plenty of order book dexes that use a hybrid model. So they might do they do the order matching off chain and they do the settlements on chain. So it's not a completely on chain product. And one of the challenges to that is it creates some risk, right? Like, so there's still some central administration that matches the orders on the off-chain side, and then there's always a new avenue for like an attack vector between the on-chain and the off-chain. And so for us, when we were combining the order book model with the concentrated liquidity AMM model, we wanted to make sure we keep it fully on-chain. And so that's what the new Oyster AMM is. It's that best of both worlds, combining the order book functionality with the AMM functionality. Um, and one of the things that allows us to do is give liquidity providers more flexibility to how they provide that liquidity, right? So now they can get something called liquidity boost, which is like leveraging your liquidity, right? So you can provide liquidity to the platform with leverage, and that leverage increases.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
The tighter you control your price bands, right? So to give an example, as a liquidity provider, instead of just providing liquidity to a pool, you can come in and say, hey, I just want to provide liquidity to these price ranges, right? From X to Y. And that helps your capital go further. And it creates a much more capital efficient experience, not only for liquidity providers, but also traders.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, going deep into this on-chain order book here, you really kind of answered my third question, which is awesome. So I'm going to go right to the fourth question here, Mark. And Oyster AMM introduces a stabilization mechanism for user protection, right? Can you explain how this mechanism is designed to protect users, and what does it protect users from?
Yeah, so the stabilization mechanism is just it's a way to it's one of our key features in our risk management model. So one of the features within this stabilization is a dynamic penalty fee, right? And what this means is if if a trade that you open causes too much of a price impact, then there's going to be a penalty fee imposed to the trader. And the reason we do this is to protect not only the users, but the LPs, right? We want to make sure that we're discouraging any form of manipulation on our platform. And so this kind of mechanism, it discourages price manipulation by imposing like these penalties that cause significant deviations in the trade price and the mark price. It also helps balance the LP risk reward ratio. So yeah, I mean it's not a feature that maybe gets a lot of attention, but I think it's key in keeping a fair and balanced market on our platform.
No, I think that's awesome for users, especially the users that don't have as much pull and don't have as much money to play with in the market. There's nothing worse than getting a quick pump and then dump all of a sudden, and then or just not having enough liquidity in general to take your gains away from these pools. So I love this new stabilization mechanism that
Yeah,
you
there's
guys have.
actually
That's
one other
awesome.
component of the stabilization mechanism for user protection, and that's um, stabilized mark prices, right? So we want to protect users against sudden wicks in price. So like, in the crypto market, there are times where, because of a major uh, like whale movement or some kind of market manipulation, you'll see a sudden wick up or down, right? And it lasts like a fraction of a second, but it could cause users to get liquidated, right? So one of the things we do is we use uh, time weighted average price, which means we're not just taking the price at the exact moment, because we understand that there's a bit of volatility that's not part of the natural kind of market movement, right? So we just want to mitigate some of the risk of these variables.
No, that's awesome. I think that's a great feature. Especially me lately. I've been getting into these meme coins, and I've been seeing these wicks like crazy, and it just, it just wrecks me sometimes. So I love this feature. It's awesome. Now, going on to my fifth question here, on top of user protection, let's talk about user security for their funds on V3. What is being done to help guarantee that users' funds are safe from compromises in V3?
Yeah. So firstly, I guess in DeFi in general, for us being a fully on-chain product, we're non-custodial, right? So we never take control of the user assets. It's just managed by smart contracts. With our the stabilization mechanisms that I just mentioned, they're a big part of our kind of user protection, right? Because it protects against volatile movements, it protects against market manipulators. Um, But I think there are a lot of best practices that we also bring in from the TradFi ecosystem. Like I mentioned, our founding team, our core team, comes from a background in TradFi, which includes treasury management, but also uh, basic user protections that we've adopted from the TradFi markets. Um, and then the other thing is, all of our smart contracts, our V2 smart V1, V2 smart contracts were audited by two different audit firms. Our V3 is currently undergoing an audit and then nearing its completion. And so, for anyone kind of interested, they can always go to synfutures.com, check out our resources, go through some of the audit reports to give them a better sense of kind of what the findings are and to give them a sense of security, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
I'm
awesome.
also proud
Oh,
to, we're also very proud to report that, like, since we've launched in 2021, we haven't had any major issues on the platform. We haven't had any major hacks or anything, and we've been able to protect our LP.
great. Oh, can you guys hear me? I think I'm having a bit of a connection issue right now. Mark, can you hear me okay?
Um, we all, when we think about risk management, we also apply it to the protocol level. Like, we think about how do we best safeguard our treasury. And so even, with the crash of Luna last year, the crash of FTX last year, we're really excited that we were not impacted by that in any way. Our treasury was safe. And so I think that really speaks volumes to the approach we've taken, where we've combined the best risk management practices of TradFi with, on-chain risk management as well.
And talking too about your guys' stabilization mechanism, this pretty much eliminates the possibility of flash loan attacks, which is great. It was one of the most common attacks in DeFi protocols last year. So I think that's great, really amazing. So, number six, the last question I have for you today, Mark, is with the launch of V3. How does this position SynFutures ahead of other derivative exchanges, and what do you guys hope to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years? Really, what's your guys' vision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think in the immediate, we we want to position ourselves as the most capital efficient um, derivatives protocol in DeFi, and we're able to do that through this kind of two model AMM system, right? We want to be able to attract liquidity from all types of liquidity providers. We're already working with market makers on the order book side. We're starting to speak with some of the big liquidity providers, on-chain liquidity providers. So we want to become this kind of aggregation of on-chain liquidity specific to derivatives perps, right? Beyond that, I think becoming more capital efficient as a DEX and means that we're able to support more pairs, right? So I mentioned earlier that our V1, we started V1 with the idea that our platform should be completely permissionless. We wanted to create this like marketplace of perps, right, where anyone can come and list. The biggest challenge that we face, though, is how do we provide liquidity to so many different pairs without fragmenting an already small liquidity pool. And so I think this new AMM is going to help us open up an avenue to attract more liquidity, which then in turns mean we can support more assets. Our V1 had about 250 pairs listed to date, a lot of them long tail assets, meaning like, there may be some trending coins, some meme coins. Yeah, we want to become the first venue where, to give an example, when Gronk was trending, to be able to come to our platform, have someone list that trading pair, and be able to short or long this popular meme token with leverage, right? So, creating this like open, permissionless marketplace for all things perps, where anything and anything goes in terms of trading. Um, I think looking beyond that, we definitely want to build a multi-chain ecosystem. So, right now V2 is deployed on Polygon and ZK Sync. Moving forward with V3, we're already assessing, close to a dozen different chains right now. Uh, we're in testnet now, but we're going to be rolling out into mainnet within a couple of weeks. And when we do, I think we're going to go multi-chain pretty much right away, right? So, I think in DeFi and just in Web3 in general, the future is multi-chain. Every chain has a different kind of community, different use case, and different advantages. And we want to remain chain agnostic and let users decide where they want to trade. So, well, I think going into like Q1, Q2 next year, as we roll out mainnet, multi-chain is going to be a big part of what we do. And then you mentioned, what are our goals 3 to 5 years down the line? I think it starts with, democratizing the derivatives and perps trading market. But eventually, we do want to become a hub for all things DeFi, right? So, without going into too much detail, I think this derivatives market is a gateway. It's the foundation for what the next evolution of DeFi could look like. But we definitely want to build on it and, bring this kind of concept of an on-chain private bank to users in all markets.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see what you guys do and cook up here at SynFutures. Now, Mark, I have one more bonus question. Flash question here. What is your go-to karaoke song?
My go-to karaoke, I think Frank Sinatra, My Way. It's an old school song, but
Holy,
I
that
like it
is an
because it's easy
old
to
school
sing.
song.
You don't have to hit high notes to be able to sing it.
Yeah, those high notes are the killer for me too, but that's why I sometimes like to pull out the Johnny Cash. But anyways, Mark, thanks so much for coming on to the space today. Really appreciate it, bud. Awesome answers. I think we really got, a really great understanding of what you guys are doing over at SynFutures, a great understanding of V3 and kind of what separates the V3 from the V1, and really what separates SynFutures from the rest of the derivative exchanges. So I want to thank you again for coming on. And yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Okay, awesome. No, I think that's good. Yeah, would love for everyone to give us a follow on Twitter at SynFuturesDefi. We also have an academy that aims to teach people not only general blockchain topics, but everything related to derivatives trading on chain. So I think it's a great resource for anyone who's kind of curious about getting into the derivative space. I think a lot of Web3 users right now, they spend most of their time on spot dexes like Uniswap, SushiSwap, trading the meme coins, buying and holding, kind of taking a long position, right? But I think as we kind of anticipate another kind of bull market return, it's good for users to brush up on, learn how to leverage derivatives, not only to take bigger leverage positions, and speculate both sides of the movement, going long or short, right? Making money whether the price goes up or down, but also as a way to hedge risk, right? Sometimes what I see in Web3 is, a lot of these degen traders, they hold massive bags of like these random meme tokens, and they tend to hold them quite long. And so one way to leverage, perps is to take a short position to cover some of that downside risk. So it's a great way, actually. Derivatives are actually meant for um, more hedging than it is for speculation, but I think it can be used either way. So definitely check that out. Also, with our V3 launching on mainnet, we're going to be running a ton of um, competitions and user campaigns to incentivize users to get involved with the platform and to start trading. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because I think there'll be a lot of alpha in following some of our social channels.
Sweet. We love to hear it. Thanks again, Mark. And everybody that listened, appreciate you guys coming in. We see some familiar faces. Nathan, nice to see you here. Laszlo, thanks again for joining you guys. And we will see you on our next deep dive. And we'll catch you then. Bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.